Hello everyone, it's Andreas here. Welcome back to the channel. As you can gather from the title of the video, I'm going to be showing you some samples to demonstrate the Pixel 5's photography prowess, and I'm going to try and showcase all of the modes that it can use. These are all taken on the main lens, and no surprises here, the Pixel takes some excellent photos in good lighting conditions. But even when the lights go down, the Pixel's night side is incredible, even with an older sensor. These were also taken on the main lens using night sight, and the results never fail to amaze. Google's algorithms are so good that even in very dark lit situations, you end up with a surprisingly usable photo. However, the real magic happens when you try astrophotography mode. That's when the Pixel, combined with night sight, can really flex its muscles. These were also taken on the main lens using a tripod. The first couple of pics were taken on a moonlit night, and it seems the sensor had a lot of light to play with, and the photo came out stunning and clear. The other photo of the same place was on a completely dark night. I seriously could see nothing, but the photo still came out looking great. Here are some more astrophotography mode photos that I took. These two photos are my favorite out of all the astro photos that I've taken. They don't show that many stars, but the colors, how it's exposed, I love how the overall photo was created. It's just a really good picture. In general, astro mode on the main lens is a really strong feature to have, especially if you're someone like me who lives in a village away from too much light pollution and are also a nature lover. Since I'm already talking about astro mode, I'm going to jump straight to that, but with the ultra-wide lens. As you can see from these ultra-wide astro shots, this lens is not on par with the main lens, even though it does have a higher megapixel sensor. The photos are not as clear, and in the second photo's case, it looks like it's a transmission constantly losing signal. The first photo is much better off, but you can still see some purple hues bleeding down the photo from the sky. To be fair though, the first photo was taken on a moonlit night, which means that even with higher focal length, the sensor could still collect enough light to produce a really good photo. The second photo was taken in complete darkness, so the sensor might have had trouble collecting light. This feature was removed by Google, but I hope they bring it back, but better, because it's not as strong as on the main lens. As I got to this part, I realized that I didn't really take that many photos with ultra-wide while activating the night sight mode on it. Well, I don't usually take ultra-wide photos, so I would have preferred if Google stuck with a telephoto lens on the Pixel 5 rather than switching it with an ultra-wide lens, because I zoom in much more than I ever want to step back. In the first one, it captured the colors on the sky very well, and you could see the foreground pretty well too. You could even see details on the rocks, so night sight was doing its job. For the second photo, you can see the same beautiful colors as the previous one, because sunsets in Cyprus are gorgeous, and this rainbow / twilight / golden hour is an experience. I think it did well, exposing some of the foreground and keeping a balanced image. This third photo, however, I know what you're gonna say. It's super noisy, and I agree. However, this was meant to be taken when ultra-wide astro was still available, and because the device wasn't stable enough, it ended up taking just a normal night sight photo. The photo is very noisy, but in those couple of seconds that the phone took the picture, it even managed to grab some stars, have pretty accurate colors, and produce a photo that is not terrible. The results change with daylight ultra-wide photos. They still don't have the same excellent quality as the main lens, but they are still really good ultra-wide photos. In this first photo, the saturated green makes this shot beautiful. Also, if you're not a fan of saturation, then you probably won't like this. As far as the second photo goes, I really can't find anything to complain about, so let me know in the comments below if something looks off to you. Although in the third photo you can see flaring on the lens and the sun was a bit blown out, it did great, evenly exposing the photo, although I think I might have had the help of the dual sliders when I took this. All three photos look great and the dynamic range in those scenarios was handled well. Next, I'll show you some 2x zoom shots. As you know, Google decided to switch the telephoto lens with an ultra-wide lens. However, that does not mean that the zoom photos taken on the Pixel 5 are bad. In fact, up to 2x zoom shots are actually pretty good, as you can see. Yes, you do lose some quality, but you can still get a good photo overall, thanks to Google's much-touted purest zoom software feature. But that's just it. That's where the problem lies. It is a truly incredible software feature, but without any additional hardware, it can only do so much. Basically, after 3x zoom, the photos start to get really muddy and you probably won't be satisfied with them. Rear-facing camera portrait mode has been good from the start for people and for pets. When I used the rear portrait mode for the first time, I used it on some plants near me. It was right when I bought the phone, and as you can see, it was really struggling to make out all the individual leaves from the background. It also missed that rope thingy that was holding the plant, and now it looks like it's just floating there. In this first photo, it almost got it perfect, but this one little mishap reduces points for the photo. Cutting out the rest of my friend Laura was really good, but it missed her hair a bit. The same happened in this photo as well. Most of the cutout is really good. You can see that it managed to keep Laura in focus and blur the cup that was in front of her. Props to Google for that. However, you can also see that it missed Laura's hair again and made kind of a weird artifact around there. Now, when it comes to this one, I can't really find anything wrong with it. I think the Pixel nailed this one on the head. The cutout looks great all around, and it did an awesome job with Petrus's curly/wavy hair. This next one is also very good, but some of the hair proved to be a bit difficult. We also did have to tweak the amount of blurriness, as we also wanted to see the colors of the sunset better. The Google Photos app really has come a long way when it comes to editing photos. Keep it up, Google. All the rest of the portraits I'm gonna talk about have my pets starring in them. Seeing as I fangirl about anything my pets do, I appreciate that the Pixel can capture those moments. In these first two photos, it struggles with the same thing. Tiger's whiskers are proving troublesome for the camera as it fails to blur their background, but the photos still look great. I am not exactly sure if I should consider this photo a total success or not. As you can see, Nalu's face and the blur around it is so good, but it blurred the rest of Nalu's body instead of blurring around. However, now that I look at it better, this photo looks awesome, so it's a win in my book. Another portrait of Nalu, and it looks like it struggled a lot with his fur around his head, but thanks to that mistake, it makes Nalu feel like a lion. I love this photo of Tiger. Tiger is always photogenic, but this photo looks so good. However, if you pay close attention, it did have trouble separating Tiger's whiskers from the background once again. But overall, this photo looks stunning. Okay, these are the last two photos in the rear portrait mode section, and I think both of them are so good. It still had trouble separating some fur from the background, but because Nalu's colors are similar to the floor, the photos look flawless. When it comes to selfie portrait mode, at first it really struggled separating me from the background, but I noticed that the more selfie portraits I took, the more the phone was learning how to take better selfie portraits. Overall though, this phone can take some really stunning portraits with very few mistakes. The quality in normal mode is great in my opinion. I usually film in 1080p auto frames, which means it switches from 30 to 60 FPS based on AI. I also don't shoot in 4K because I don't have any 4K equipment to view it on. It takes so much space and I feel that the average consumer will not use it. However, I commend Google on finally bringing 4K 60 to its devices, and now I think they should improve it even more with new software and hardware. I like the videos that the Pixel 5 produces. They look saturated and they pop, but sometimes they can be too saturated for my taste. The stabilization is actually great, and I rarely find a need to change from standard stabilization to another mode. Although it is great to have that option should you want to use it. One mode that I use very often lately is Timelapse. The gorgeous sunsets in Cyprus deserve at least that much. You can see that in some of the time-lapse videos, the lighting flickers when the sun is setting. I think that's because I did not lock in my preferred exposures, using the dual exposure sliders on the Pixel, which resulted in it trying to adjust exposure. Well, that was exposure too many times. Another mode that I've been using often is the newly introduced cinematic pan. It basically slows down the video twofold so you can get a more dramatic effect without having to do it in post. Actually, this stabilization mode took me a few tries to learn how to use, because even if I just pressed the button and let it do its job, I am no filmmaker and I don't know what angles work, what lighting, how's the subject supposed to be, and so on and so forth. But I think I've got the hang of it lately. This last part was added later because while I was editing the video, my dog passed away, and I realized that I didn't put or show that many photos of him in the video, so this is all gonna be about him.
Σταμάτα. Μοχάμεντ. Τι όμορφα μου είναι. Κοράκλα μου έτσι. Τι είναι, τι είναι. Κάτσε, κάτσε. Κάτσε, μπράβο. Όχι, θέλω να κάτσε, εντάξει. Nu du si vuchas. Nu du si vuchas. Nu marcao eso. Next. ¿Qué charla?